Geek Out!
Hey, welcome to another installment of Catching Up. I'm Sam.
I'm Chris.
I'm Jake.
And this week we have Pharrell Dalrymple coming on the show. You know, about this time last year, we did a book review for Pop Gun War Gift. And lo and behold, life found a way.
Oh, it always does.
We just posted a review of Pop Gun War Chain Letter, which is the second volume. And Pharrell Dalrymple is here to talk about both volumes, which is pretty cool. And here he is. And joining us this week, we have Pharrell Dalrymple. His the second volume of Pop Gun War Chain Letter comes out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, June 14th, and you can get the in book stores on Tuesday, June 20th. And of course, the first volume, Pop Gun War Gift, is also out and available everywhere now. Pharrell, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, with this second volume, the first volume was kind of more or less divided into straight up chapters. With this volume, you kind of have it more divided into time periods.
Yeah, I started the book like a long time ago, so it's kind of hard to remember all my motivations for it, for why I did it that way. But I wanted to break it up into kind of like chapters, but I wanted each one to kind of have feel like its own book, but still like tie into this the story that ties them all together.
Mm-hmm. What made Emily the right kind of protagonist? Because the first time around, it was Sinclair who certainly makes an appearance and takes on this time around he takes on a bunch of kind of guys that feel like they're straight out of the Chocolate War. But
I love that movie.
Oh yeah,
and that book too. They're great. Yeah, I love both those.
I feel like that one, Chocolate War, doesn't get. I feel like it's lost in the shuffle of 80s coming of age flicks to John Hughes. It needed Simple Minds or Molly Ringwald to kind of elevate it in the zeitgeist.
Well, it had a really good soundtrack. That's one of the things I like about the movie, was that it was Yaz and Kate Bush. It definitely had a distinct sound from that era, but I don't think it was it wasn't romantic. There wasn't really an escapist aspect to it. And the book was even more brutal. The movie actually has kind of a happy ending, and the book was just that, and the sequel, they're just kind of really hardcore, teen drama, it's realistic or something,
Well, would you call both of those books and or the film kind of an influence, kind of on the coming of age of Sinclair and Emily in this volume?
Definitely just an influence on my, I guess, art in general. When I did the Wrenchies, there was a couple things that I put in there from that. I remember being really moved by that poem, that line from that poem, do I dare disturb the universe? And because it was there's a scene in the book that's not in the movie, but he just has this line. I think that's from the Love Song of J. Prufrock or The Wasteland. I'm kind of blanking on which poem it's from. Mm-hmm. But I love that line, and both those poems.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was a specific thing in this story that was influenced by that, but that's one of my favorite movies and books. So I'm sure it's in there a little bit at least.
Somewhere in the DNA.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean,
just the way the kids talk to each other and stuff too. It just seems really realistic, I guess.
Well, I mean, again, in the Sinclair sequence in this book, I kind of got those vibes because Chocolate War has kind of got that big fight where that line comes up. Who am I to disturb the universe, or that's how he kind of concedes or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I kind of got that when Sinclair kind of gets into fisticuffs himself. This is kind of a Sinclair that we don't really. He's a lot more. I don't want to say assertive, but that wouldn't necessarily be too far off. But he's a lot more emotional than he was in the first volume. Was that kind of a conscious decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think the character is kind of I don't know. I mean, I was conscious of him. I didn't want him to be perceived as meek or anything. I wanted him to kind of be he's a city kid. He's gets irritated by things and is maybe a little more mature than a kid in the suburbs or something might seem. So I I have another character that I was like one of the first comics that I did. This kid named Smith, and I remember at some point, like when I was working on maybe not this book, but the first volume Gift, where I was like, I have to kind of make Sinclair not feel exactly like that Smith character. And I was like, so what is his personality? How is his personality is distinctive? And then I started doing that with all the different various characters I use, where I would like label like this character's the heart, and this character's the this character's like the levity, and this one is really emotional. And I don't remember exactly what I labeled Sinclair, but yeah, he's definitely more assertive and um, like direct, I guess. He doesn't take crap from people, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, though, what we see kind of in both volumes of Popgun War, though you kind of spread it into the small town in the beginning of this one, or at least in the framing device, it kind of deals, I think, a lot with the ennui. Like the first volume, more so like the ennui of living in the inner city. This one's kind of, again, the kind of small town. Was that kind of stemming from your own experiences or, living in New York City?
Well, the Popgun War definitely comes from like the first volume definitely came out from me living in New York when I did. I've been living in like Portland for the last 10 years, and I spent some time in Tulsa, Oklahoma here and there, a few years here and there. So there's stuff from like Portland and Tulsa that is in there. Like I feel like most of the small town stuff is all Tulsa. Like when I started the book like years back, I was living in Tulsa at the time, and I went on a little photo safari in North Tulsa, which is like where the outsiders are from. So like that book and movie The Outsiders.
Sure, yeah.
Not like real outsiders, but it's like it's a little more like run down and stuff. So there's like a lot of old signs and things, and I actually took some photo reference around there. Like I think like the motel they're at in the beginning is something that's like on Admiral, and there's there's a couple other like signs and different things like that. So yeah, that was like, I mean, I knew the story idea. Like I had it basically, like that was like the most closest thing to like working from a script I've ever done from like my own writing. So like I knew that I wanted it to be set in this like kind of different environment, but I can't really remember why exactly. I think it was just sort of like I wanted Emily to have a sort of like a fish out of water thing, like have her give her like a reason for following these guys down into the tunnels, rather than just being like, oh, I'm kind of on my route and I'm not paying attention to anything. When when I'm in a city, I'm just kind of getting from A to B, and then but she's like in this kind of sort of alien place to her, and then it's like everything seems weird, and then it just kind of gets weirder,
Sure, yeah. As things are wont to do. You had invoked the Wrenchies earlier. What made you kind of want to tie in, Hollis shows up and everything? What made you want to tie that into Popgun War?
Well, I had actually had Hollis in a story like years before I worked on the Wrenchies. And so with the Wrenchies, even like working on the Wrenchies, like there's characters that are in there that are from like other things that I've done. Like little, them someone might make a cameo or what have you, and like all the stories that I've written, so up till now, I guess for myself, are they're all kind of in the same universe. I just kind of thought of it that way. Like I liked these. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Madeleine L'Engle. She wrote like A Wrinkle in Time,
oh,
and
yeah,
a bunch of other kind of like science fiction-y young adult books, and then just like regular young adult books. But she had I remember like there was a book, Many Waters, which is like the fourth volume in the Wrinkle in Time thing. And there was like before the book starts, there was just like a couple pages of like, the family tree of all the stories. And I noticed that she had all of her stories were interconnected, or they like either like might have just had like one character that appeared in it that also appeared in another story. And there were certain characters that kind of crossed over from like this kind of realistic, young romance type world, and then this like more of a science fiction-y Wrinkle in Time world, And I just was really taken with that, I guess, as like a teenager, and like I want to do that. So it's like I feel like everything I write or create or draw or whatever is sort of like adding to this world, you know. Like I just kind of want my whole career to be like just kind of keep adding to this, like you know, like a 100 Acre Woods kind of, you know, A Milne type of thing, you know, or it's like weird magical thing where I can do whatever I want, you know, put in the character from the Wrenchies or the new thing I'm doing or whatever, you know.
So Popgun War is kind of like your dark tower. It's the spine of the Dalrymple verse.
Well, yeah, I mean, I always kind of think of like Wrenchie's world as more like the Dark Tower stuff, but like the Popgun War is more of like Popgun War stuff seems is like more of like kind of whimsical and all ages, and you know, there's like a sweetness to it, I think, whereas like the Wrenchie stuff and like the new thing I'm doing, which is like a kind of like a sort of unofficial sequel to Wrenchie's, it's like that's all like you know, it's pretty dark stuff, you know. I mean, there's some like humor and things like that, but I mean, Wrenchie's wasn't a kid's book. You know, it's like
Yeah.
there's a lot of swearing and like drug use and stuff like that in it. Whereas like Popgun War, it's like, you know, people can read it to their kids and stuff. You know, it's weird, but it's not like, you know, there's nothing like really unsafe in it. You know.
Yeah, not particularly graphic. You know, now that I'm thinking about it, both volumes of Popgun War kind of have like sinister clergy figures. So is that is that kind of tied to Chocolate War as well?
I think that's just more of like me. You know, it's like the only way I know how to be like subversive or something. You know, it's like I was raised pretty religious, and so you know, when I became a grown person and moved to New York and stuff like that, I kind of went in the opposite direction of sort of like not really liking religion, organized religion anyway, too much, you know?
Sure.
So I think too, when I wrote the first volume, when I was working on the first volume, I had just read The Brothers Karamazov, and there's a character in there. It's kind of a Rasputin type character who's like this like, you know, weird monk guy who would wear these like they described as cruel irons, you know. So he would like have like chains and balls and stuff hanging from like under his robes, and he walked around. You could hear him clanging, and he would do, you know, do it for like penance. You know, it was like, oh, look how holy I am because I'm suffering, you know, with all this weight on me. And I just was like, I don't know, just really intrigued by that imagery, I guess. And so I put that character in the first volume of Popgun War. It's sort of like a pseudo villain type, you know. I mean, it's not really like, I mean, it doesn't really do anything, I think, except like, you know, yells at someone or something. And in this volume, there's the same character, but he's kind of more of like a, yeah, even more of a passive figure, I would say. You know, it's just like, I don't know. I think there's probably some subconscious things going on there with me. I don't know. I was writing it, but like that, and then like I also have like a policeman that gets like a tomato thrown at him because
And he pulls a gun.
like at the
yeah.
time I was drawing it, I was like, you know, all these stories were coming out about like cops shooting people and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna throw a tomato at one of these guys, you know.
At the time you were writing it, I mean, you might as well be writing it now.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the time I was actually drawing those pages. I think I originally had it when I wrote it, which was a long time ago. I might have had it as like a security guard or something like that. You know,
Sure.
I don't remember what it was exactly, but I remember specifically when I was drawing it, I was like, this guy's a jerk. I'm gonna make him look like a jerk.
Make him Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yeah, exactly.
So you had mentioned A Wrinkle in Time. You had mentioned, you know, we talked the Chocolate War, you know, The Outsiders. What is it about, you know, coming of age stories that are just so damn cool?
I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely like the well that I draw from, like that, you know, whatever those ages are, you know, like teen or young kid kind of thing. I don't know, like I was just kind of like a weird indoor introspective kid, and I just remember thinking like how like anytime I would like leave my room or my house or anything, go to school or wherever, like just not understanding anything, like what was going on half the time. Like I just like had my head in the clouds or something, and then would like have moments of clarity where I'd just be like, wait, what? Why are we at a bread factory, or oh, we're on a field trip. Okay, like how did we get here? um, so I don't know. I just like when ideas come to me for stories, like my brain just immediately goes to like, oh, that age is like the best way to kind of deal with weird things happening. Yeah.
Sure.
It's like kids don't know anything, so like their perspective is all like, it's different than is like being like, I don't know. It's like it's not fun to like write about like myself, like this jaded adult type person that has to like pay rent and things. It's like it's just more fun for me to like, okay, there's like no constraints when you're a kid. You can just kind of do whatever, go for a walk in subterranean tunnels and, look at some weird video monitors or something.
Sure. Pop on a pair of angel wings and kind of fly above the city.
Yeah. It's like, if I was a grown up, it's like there's no way I would go down, follow some shady characters underground just because they look weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wouldn't even notice them probably. I'd just be, so, in my own head, like, okay, I'm focused on, the bills I have to pay or, someone said something mean to me or whatever. Like, I was like kind of lost in my own thoughts, whereas like I feel like, kids are kind of like more open for adventure and things to happen to them.
Sure. Every day feels like an adventure.
Yeah.
Where everything feels more
Yes.
exaggerated, I guess, when you're a kid.
Yeah. And you're like so impatient to grow up too, but it's like, gotta enjoy that, man.
Yeah. Now, was it the Wrenchies that had started out like kind of back during Meat House?
Yeah, I started this Popcorn Chain Letter before I started working on the Wrenchies. Like I had started just like the first I think I did like 20 pages of it like over 10 years ago, and then I just kind of had to put it away for a while to like work on the Wrenchies and other stuff. So the Wrenchies actually came out of the last volume of Meat House we did. I did a story in there about like these two kids, which is actually in the back of the Wrenchies. So it's like 15 pages. And there was like another story in that Meat House SOS was like the name of the issue that Tom Herpick did that like really inspired me with like the post-apocalyptic thing. Because, it was sort of like, these two stories of like, oh, these brothers who like, go in this like evil elf cave and they end up like becoming these like demon slayer kids. And there's also like this kind of post-apocalyptic magic quest kind of story set in the far future.
Mm-hmm.
And, kind of mash those together. So like one of them, yeah, was just those two kids. And then, I read Tom's story and it was just like, oh, that's kind of how I want this, world to look that they're, going to be in the future. But I don't know if you'd appreciate me copying his steez, but it was just more of like an inspiration. I didn't like copy any panels or anything like that, but
It's an homage.
yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that I was influenced by too for that book, like specifically the movie Over the Edge. That was like a big influence on that, like big inspiration. Just like the way the kids could talk, the way they talk to each other again, like the Chocolate War.
Yeah. Now, we had certainly talked about the kind of the future and present sections of this book and their inspirations. Where did the past with Benjamin kind of come from?
Well, I guess that's, a lot of that is, like my neurosis, which I've been told several times never to write your neurosis. But, it wasn't just like catharsis, but I wrote that character. I don't even remember where he came from or what I was thinking, but he's actually appears in the first volume of Popcorn War on one page. It's like, the Sinclair and his friend Addison go in to a private detective, private investigator, because he can't find his sister. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna go and talk to this private investigator, and they go in there, and it's like the guy's really weird, and then like he just ends up freaking out, and he's like, I'm blind, I can't see, and then they like Sinclair and Addison like run out of the room because they get freaked out by it.
Sure, yeah.
So I just had that in my, when I was working on the sequel, I just wrote that character into the story of like, oh, okay, I'm going to have present, past, and the future. Like, I want to know, why is that guy blind? Like, why did I do that? Like, what was, what was I thinking? With that weird page. I was kind of going for like a mood or like an atmospheric kind of thing, but like, I just kind of became more curious about the character. So, I just wrote him like, okay, well, I'll make up a story about like what happened to him, like how he went blind, and that's basically what, the story takes place like right after Sinclair and Addison leave, and then he tells the story to his friend Rachel, like what happened, like how he's blind. No, that was my thinking, I guess, with that guy.
It was literally a case of like putting something down to paper and being like, "What's this dude's story?"
Yeah, exactly.
You did kind of, I don't want to say redeem him, because that kind of implies culpability in that first volume, other than just being a dude that like screams that he can't see. But you do kind
He
of
was just scared.
Yeah. Is that something, you had mentioned that you started working on Pop Gun War when you were in Tulsa, but is that kind of collective fear or everyone's neuroses something that you kind of found living in the big city? Everyone's got their own hang-ups and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've just resigned myself to that. I'm just like a weirdo. Like I have a lot of, social anxiety and stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people do, but I just notice I get a lot of weird looks from friends and stuff about all the little like societal rules that I have and things, like seems like every time I go out for a walk or ride my bike or whatever, there's like, 3 or 4 incidents where I'm like trying to control my temper, over like, oh man, that guy didn't put his turn signal on, or that person almost bumped into me or whatever. So I think like that's kind of what, I was going for with him. And also too, just like, yeah, kind of like, reacting to things out of fear. Because a lot of times, when I get upset at those things, like, oh, that car, he didn't, signal or whatever, didn't drive like how I think he should. I know that's just out of fear, like my own fear of like, oh my God, he almost hit me, or he could have hit me if since he wasn't paying attention, or, whatever. It's like, I don't even know if it's conscious, but like I said, a subconscious thing where I was like, anger is stronger than fear. So it's like my immediate impulse to like, oh, I'm mad at you now, for doing this thing, or like even just like a perceived fear of like, oh, this person that looks kind of gross might come up and talk to me. So like, I hope he doesn't do that, So it's like, oh, I'm just gonna like have like a mad face so he like won't talk to me, And I know that all this stuff is like kind of crazy. So it's like I don't know. I kind of wanted to put that down on paper and into a character, like, well, it's kind of like part of my personality. So like, that's sort of like his defining trait is that, he might like react out of fear, but then he's also going like, oh, well, how could I do this better next time? Or how could I be, expect this, or, be okay with this instead of just, being irritated or afraid or whatever. Like, even though he's like, not the most like heroic figure in the world, like he's still like doing the right thing, He might like pat himself on the back a little hard about it, but he's he like saves some kids and
Yeah, very Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, absolutely. That kind of, that's one of the things I probably like the most about both volumes of Pop Gun War. You're seeing these people that, they're just living their daily lives. It's very kind of slice of life in the grand scheme. And they all, again, have their own hang-ups, their own neuroses like we all do. And that's what makes them so relatable. But they just keep on keeping on without spoiling too much. Emily starts out kind of in a not great place with the rest of her, band. And hopefully she's in a better place at the book's close. Sinclair at the beginning of the first one, he's just trying to get by. And I think when we see him both at the end of Gift and when he shows up in Chain Letter, he's grown. Like there is development there, and I think that's probably the thing I enjoy the most. Though I will say with this second volume, you do also kind of play around more with color. So that's something visually that I found intriguing about this about Chain Letter.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was that was my idea from the beginning, was to have these because originally the book was going to be published by Dark Horse. The first volume was, and then when I started serializing in Island. in the book had been out of print, Dark Horse, for a while, so we had it printed, reprinted there. Um, but when I was originally, when I started this book like over 10 years ago, I was having I wanted to just have it full color. And my editor was like, I don't know if they're going to go for that. It was kind of a different market back then. And I guess, there wasn't like anyone giving advances or, my career was just kind of starting.
Hmm.
So I kind of came up with this whole like plan to like, well, I want to tell this, I want there to be like a difference between each, between her story, like a strong visual difference between her story and then the three different past, present, and future that she sees. And it just seemed like it made the most sense to do that with color, where I had an idea of like, okay, most of the book's going to be black and white or grayscale. Like I was planning on having Ben Abel's section be grayscale, like symbolizing the past, like, okay, it's all foggy and dreamy.
Hmm.
And then the present was just going to be full color. I was like, okay, that'll be like, watercolor, my painted, like this is like reality, the really happening or
Hmm.
something. And then the future section, I wanted it to be computer colored, but at the time I got was pitching the book to Dark Horse, I was just it was just going to be one color, like one like red or something.
Hmm.
And so it was going to be like cheaper because like I figured out how to do like the different signatures. Like, okay, this signature will be color, this signature will be black and white, and this signature will be one color. And so yeah, I pitched the book like that. And then like now, or a year or two ago, a couple of years ago, when I started working on it again in earnest, um, I just was like, oh, okay, I'll just have the future be just computer colored, and I can use as many colors as I want because, like, I feel like the whole like printing technology's improved so much since then
Sure. Yeah.
that it's just like it wouldn't make any sense to do like the book in different signatures with different color. It almost seems like that would be more expensive than
Hmm.
just having the book printed full color. So that was like the whole yeah history of why that happened.
Well, I mean,
But it was always part of the story. Like
yeah.
I always wanted that color shift to be like actually mean something, not just be arbitrary.
Well, I mean, again, it pays off. I mean, it does look,
Thank you.
yeah, it looks great. Now, I mean, logistically, you had mentioned that you had originally pitched this to Dark Horse, but a bit behind the scenes, what made Image the right publisher for it?
Well, I was just having a hard time finishing it, working on it because the way, I don't know how it is with other artists, but I wasn't getting any kind of page rate from them or any kind of advance or anything like that. So when like at the time I had been working on it for like years, like kind of just I'll do like a page every other month or something. Um, and then I met like an agent, like a book agent, who helped me pitch the Wrenchies to First Second and some other companies. First Second was the one that published it, and that was kind of at a weird time where like there was all this like talk about it, big advances. Oh, they're giving like big advances to cartoonists and stuff. Graphic novels were really hot or something, and I don't think the markets really does that anymore, as far as I know. Like, I mean, that was like 8 years ago, 9 years ago now too, when I got that deal. But uh, so anyways, like my book had been out of print, like Pop and War Gift had been out of print for like a year or two. And then Brandon Graham told me about this island anthology, and he was like, "I want you to do something for it." And I was like, "I'd love to. What should I do?" And he's like, "Well, the stuff that feels like the most you to me is your Popgun War stuff. So if you could just do something like that." And I was like, "Well, can I just do the sequel with an island?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." So then at that point, then it just kind of made sense for Image to put out the trade and to reprint the original
Sure.
trade. I don't have any like bad blood with Dark Horse or anything. It was just kind of like I just had a crappy contract, basically where I couldn't make it, I couldn't work on the book because I had to pay the bills, working on other stuff.
Of course.
So I don't know. That's it.
Now, for all something we ask everybody that comes on the show, what are you currently geeking out over?
Wow. Okay. I feel like I'm always bad at this, but I did just go to the comic store. I picked up the new Crickets. I don't know if you know Sammy Harkham's work at all,
Nah.
but he's one of my favorite cartoonists. He does an anthology called Kramer's Ergot. That's a lot of like art kind of more artsy cartoonist guys do stuff for. He does his own series that he self-publishes, I think. I was Drawing Quarterly was putting out for a while, but anyways, it's Crickets. It's kind of like a personal anthology, but he's been serializing this one story in all the issues, and then he'll have some backup features in it. And I also got the new Street Angel book that Image put out, which is pretty cool. The After School Kung Fu special. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, we had Jim on the show like about a month ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I also just grabbed this book too from my local comic shop, Floating World Comics, called Junkie, and it's like an art book by I'm looking for the guy's name. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's cool.
What is it more about the kind of the cartoony or cartoonist books and art books rather than regular comics that really appeals to you?
Oh, I guess I like the heart, and I like sort of the opposition to formula with a lot of that stuff, Like I'm not talking about like, oh, this is the important graphic novel you have to read now, like that kind of stuff. But I'm just generally attracted to stuff that one artist does everything. Because I feel like there's like a more of a purity of vision with that. I mean, I like plenty of like mainstreamy type superhero stuff or genre stuff, but like the Marvel, DC, and even like Dark Horse to some degree of the assembly line approach to comics of like, we're going to churn this out once a month. We're going to have a separate writer that writes 6 other books. We're going to have an artist and a penciler, an inker, and a letterer, and a color. I feel like it's really difficult when you have that many people involved in something to have everyone's vision align in such a way, in the same way that like one creator can do. I'm not necessarily saying it's those cartoonists are better when they can do everything themselves. It's just something that appeals to me personally more, just because it doesn't look or feel as manufactured as like those other kinds of comics,
Well, kind of like I think the same way about like big budget like tentpole films. Like it's kind of like a miracle that big blockbusters are as good as they are with as many cooks in the kitchen as most of them do.
Yeah, and I feel that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I love like watching all those like superhero movie, Marvel, whatever, Guardians. I'm gonna go see Guardians of the Galaxy on Friday, whatever. It's just like, this just fun, It's kind of like if there was some copies of X-Men sitting around, I would, oh, cool, I'm gonna read these, and have a lot of fun reading them and stuff. But like, my expectations are pretty low, as far as like, oh, this is just entertainment versus like, I actually want to be like, you go to see like some, Nicholas Winding Refn movie or something like that, and that's actually kind of provokes thought and moves me, if like there's like some director that I like a lot, that has like a really distinct vision or a world that he kind of creates in like all of his movies. Like that's the stuff that's like most attractive to me because of the kind of like the idiosyncratic nature of it, and again like the purity of vision, I guess, that comes from like like someone like David Lynch or something. It's like, my way or the highway, man. Like, it's going to be like this.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that, because that's something we talk about a lot on the show, is that singular vision. And a lot of the artists, kind of just by chance that we end up talking to, are artists like yourselves that, tackle it all. We always joke, we just call it Barry Windsor Smithing it, because I remember the first time I saw Weapon X, when I was working at a comic shop and I was reading it, I was like, Jesus Christ, this guy did everything. Like, we always joke too, like he like plants the seeds to cut the tree to make the paper, because like he's just one name on the book. And we talk about Frank Miller all the time, and it's just something. Yeah, it's something. We talk about that all the time here, and And it's just and I totally get what you're saying, where it's not like, oh, this is the ultimate only way to read a comic or read something, but there is that something special about it because it is that one singular vision, and it is similar to the movies too. Like when I watch like a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, you get something, because again, and I have the utmost respect for guys like you and people who have that singular vision, because it's cool that you can go in and you can create something entirely on your own where you don't necessarily need the writer or the artist. It's all one wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's it's also really kind of hellish at times too. Like,
I'm sure, yeah.
I'm really jealous of someone. I was telling this to Brandon the other day. I'm just like, that guy, just like, what about the guy that he's totally happy just drawing Spider-Man? Like, it's like, I want to do that. Like, that just seems something so nice. Like, I don't have to think about, stuff as much, or like, worry about like it's selling as well, or anything like that. It's just like, oh, I'm drawing Spider-Man, I'm sure it has its own stresses and, irritations, or it's, everything's work, it takes, after a while, it's like, but, yeah, I don't know. And I think too, like sometimes, I read something where it's like the sum of is greater than the, what is it? The sum is greater than the parts.
Yeah.
The whatever.
I'll take that. Yeah.
Like, like Daredevil Born Again to me is like,
sure. Yeah.
It's like, oh wow, it's like Frank Miller didn't draw it himself, but like, man, David Mazzucchelli made that really made that comic. I mean, together, like as like a team, it was just like, wow, that's like my favorite superhero story.
Sure.
It's like sort of transcends, like it's like they become like one unit or something. Like kind of merge into this like, oh, that's kind of like a one creator, like these 5 different people that were involved in this kind of, like Voltron or something. I don't know.
Well, it's funny you mentioned them, because again, like Frank Miller's one of those guys who could do it himself, but then again, he did it as well with Mazzucchelli on like Year One as well, and those are like, you get that team that does think of as like one like hive mind type thing, because then maybe Frank was like, oh, I can focus on just the writing of this, and have Dave, Mazzucchelli kind of knock it out of the park. Because I always go to, I think Born Again, being a huge Frank Miller fan, and as much as I love Dark Knight Returns and Sin City and his other work, I think Born Again is probably his best thing. I never want to like say it is for for sure, because I always change my mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, you think of it and like, yeah, I mean, so again, it's like you said, there's not one right way to do it, but sometimes having that singular vision is it turns out being the right way to do it, and sometimes having that person you trust 110% to take on the writing duty or the drawing duty produces a Born Again, or a Year One.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Is there anything outside of comics that you're currently kind of, vibing on, enjoying?
Outside of comics, I don't know. I mean, I go see like music every once in a while. I saw a couple good local bands recently. There's one called A Volcano, really good, and
That's a great name. That's a great
Volcano.
Yeah.
Wreckminster Harmony, I think, was the name of the other band that I just saw. It was really good. Yeah, I like, I don't know. I've been kind of like into a lot of like, sort of like post-punk type music, I guess. This is a band like Sad Lovers and Giants that I like a lot, and Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, and still like a big OMD fan. And I haven't really been watching a lot of movies lately, but I binge watch TV shows like crazy. I don't know if you've seen Taboo, but that show is like my new favorite show.
I need to get on that because I love Tom Hardy, but like I just totally, it sounds awful, but I totally forgot it existed. Because like I've been recording
there's so much stuff out there now.
I know, it's crazy, but I definitely need to jump on the
I've been all
Tom
about
Hardy.
The Better Call Saul and Samurai
Jack.
Jack.
I love Bob Odenkirk, man. He's like one of my favorites. Big Mr. Show fan.
Sure. What'd you think of what's the Netflix he did with Bob and Dave or something like that?
Oh yeah, with Bob and David.
Yeah,
it was sort of like Mr. Show Part 2 or something.
Spiritual successor.
Yeah. No, I mean, I enjoy the hell out of it. I wish there were more episodes, but I get like, they all have like careers and have to pay bills, have to be in like chipmunk movies and stuff.
Oh,
Or whatever.
yeah. Oh, yes.
At least David. The cool thing is, like, David Cross is very like open about being like, he's like, look, I don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
work for like a year every time I do one of those.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't begrudge anyone like paying their rent. You know.
Well, while we got you on, is there anything else you want to plug?
I'm doing a new comic strip that's going to be online pretty soon. Eventually, I'll put issues out from Image probably, but it's called Proxima Centauri, and it's kind of like a follow-up to the Wrenchies, sort of. It's got like the main character, this character Sherwood, and from the Wrenchies is kind of like the main character in the story, and he's like a teenager on board this like space station-y thing, and hopefully I'll start putting that on this. It's an app called Stila. I'll start posting pages there maybe in the next month or so. I'm going to TCAF. I'll be at TCAF and VanCAF, the two comic shows in Canada, next couple weeks. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
What was kind of your inspiration with Proxima Centauri? You know, what obviously there's sci-fi influence in the Wrenchies. You know, it's a sci-fi tale, but what what were you kind of drawing from with Proxima?
Well, I even with the Wrenchies, most of the like science fiction stuff I do, it almost feels like it's more like science fantasy than actual like, like my buddy Simon Roy, who worked on Prophet as well as Brandon and me, he actually created Prophet with Brandon, or the new Prophet. Anyway, there was something he kind of does more like hard science fiction. I feel like, it's just like all this stuff kind of he has like explanations, or maybe he doesn't write it out, but like I feel like there's reasonings behind why he does things, and like if he shows you some kind of machine, like he knows how it works, or like the basic system of it. And with me, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this thing floats because it's magic, and so like Proxima Centauri is kind of like the same deal, but it just kind of looks more science fiction-y. But like when I wrote the Wrenchies, I wrote this. I have like this massive amount of history for this main character Sherwood, who doesn't. It's just like the tip of the iceberg, like what we see of him in the book, and he's not even in the book as much as some of the other characters are. So in the Wrenchies, there's like a couple scenes where I mention him like as a teenager on board this space station, and ever since I did the Wrenchies, I've had this idea in my head of like, okay, I'm going to do a series of stories where he, as a teenager, is on board this space station. And then I'm going to do a series of stories like after he comes back to Earth. And then another series maybe of like a little later, when he's a little older, kind of before everything goes to crap, So I've kind of just been kind of mulling it over since finishing the Wrenchies of like, and I actually have a third volume of Popcorn War planned, like have it written out, but like I kind of wanted to start on that, but like I've been thinking about this Proxima Centauri stuff so much that just like I'm gonna do that next, and then after I'm done with some of that, I'll go back to Popcorn War.
Almost like a dessert,
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's all dessert. I mean, it's like any project I'm working on at the time is like, it's like, this is hard. I don't want to do the next thing, So I'm always like thinking about like, oh, it'll be fun once I'm done with this, and can, and then as I'm trying to like tell myself like, hey, you're supposed to enjoy the journey, man. Come on, it's not the destination. It's like,
well, that ties it full circle with the kids that are impatient about growing up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like a message to myself, I'm trying to constantly like relearn these lessons, and I'm like trying to put it in my work, so like help me remember or something.
Well, again, Popgun War Chain Letter is out in comic book stores everywhere on June 14th, and in book stores on Tuesday, June 20th. So yeah, Pharrell, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks a lot. It was great. Good time.
Excellent. I feel like we always do ask ourselves, what is it about coming of age stories that are so fucking cool?
Yeah.
I know that you're still on the edge of 17 high.
Yeah, I mean,
got you feeling so high.
Well, actually, the more recent one I watched, which I had never seen all the way, and god damn it, is Stand By Me,
Oh,
which is a classic.
yeah.
I finally watched just the whole thing in one sitting. Like, this is a while ago still, but again, I think we always touch on that idea of like, we've never pinpointed it entirely, which is kind of part of the fun, but the idea of like, we don't necessarily want to go back there, but you do miss that time and the fact that we're farther away from there than we ever have been before, and it's not going to get any closer, kind of thing. But also, especially if you can relate to it, that's the big part of it. I remember seeing Perks of Being a Wallflower with a friend of ours, and he just didn't get it. You know what I mean? Because he had a different high school experience than I did. And that's not like a woe is me thing. I just had a much closer high school experience to the characters in Perks of Being a Wallflower than my buddy I saw it with. So he kind of just was like, oh, it was fine, I guess. And I was like, oh my God, that was so fucking dead on, man. So yeah, I mean, again, it reminds you of a time in your life. It doesn't have to be a good time or a bad time. Just a time that you can relate to and you felt a part of.
Was it another turning point? A fork stuck in the road, if I may?
I can tell when you're going to do that because there's that like draw, that long draw, and it's like, here we go, boys. Buckle in. We're going over the edge.
Just kind of like wiggling my fingers before I say
Here
it.
we go. Snap those knuckles, and here we go. But yeah, it's exactly like that. Actually, that song was somewhere in my life recently.
Huh.
I don't remember where, but it was there. I heard it, and I was like, oh, yeah.
Ah, yes. This song.
Yeah,
This
enough.
song still exists.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's cool. You guys getting anything? Not at all.
I don't think I did. I've been working a lot recently. The new job starting up is taking a lot of my time.
I think we've all kind of been feeling a little drained as
Mhm.
of late. I've been seriously for the past 3 nights in a row. I've fallen asleep on my couch, like waking up at like 2 in the morning. Like, oh,
I've been very close to that.
yeah.
Yeah, I've kind of been keeping up with my Twin Peaks and Mystery Science Theater 3000 The Return marathoning. Not even marathoning, just watching viewings. But like it's like 1 to 2 episodes of each a day at best.
There was a moment this afternoon where Chris had sent me like something on like Facebook chat, and he was like, "So we're watching like Guardians of the Galaxy because like we're recording this before we see Guardians of the Galaxy. Fucking deal with it." The
What? We record ahead of time? I thought this was live. Guac.
the
Swap.
Swa Warped.
That was a new one. It was wonderful.
That was a Sam and Chris exclusive. But he was just like, I was just like, I don't even fucking know anymore, man. Like, I'm just like, I might have made plans with like everybody. I don't even know. Everything's blending together.
At first, when you said when I sent you the question, it was because I was talking to friend of the show Ken.
Yeah.
Because that's his
Laserdisc.
name. Yeah, his name is friend of the show Ken.
Yeah.
Co-host of Laserdicks.
It's on his birth certificate.
Yeah, and it will be on his gravestone.
You'll put it there.
Yeah, even if it's just a sticky note. I will chisel it myself because apparently I'm going to outlive him.
Aren't we all?
All that ramen he eats, he probably will die soon.
Yeah.
What? That's morbid. He's my friend. Anyway,
Yeah.
but like, so
Heaven forbid.
I had talked with him last night about joining our little group to see it, and so he messaged me because he's like, "I'm going to buy the tickets right now." And I'm like, okay. But so I messaged you because I was like, I don't even think Sam and I had agreed on a specific time.
Yeah.
Just kind of like,
Let's do it.
Thursday night, let's go to the Angelica because there's good restaurants around there.
Yeah, and it's close to where I live.
Yeah, and it's not driving all the way to the Alamo because that's really far away.
Yeah, especially for
Yeah, especially for you now.
Yeah.
Whereas for him, it's like out the front door. Anyway. But so I messaged you and you were like, I may have made plans with my neighbor, and I was like, this son of a bitch. and then like 5 minutes later, you had like an existential crisis while like typing where you said you were like, I don't know, man, I don't even know what's going on anymore. And I was like, Okay, I feel you. I'm in the same place.
I think we've all been there. We're like, I think there's different plans. I don't even fucking know. I can tell you I've made like no commitments across the board. I'm just like fucking.
To be fair, that's how I feel about pretty much every time we're recording.
I'm just fucking.
Yeah. It's mostly like Sam will message us in our little group chat and be like, "Hey, you guys want to do Bonchon at 6:30?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, we're recording tonight. I wonder if we're recording an interview tonight. Who knows? Good thing I'm not doing anything tonight."
Yeah. I remember the one time like you had seen like Life, and you were like, "Yo, I'm gonna go catch Life," and I was like, "Oh, we have an interview." It's like, "Well, you can do it by yourself." And I was like, "Probably." We ended up having 2 that night too. I was like, The Ivan Brandon Graham. Go ahead and check it. It's awesome.
Yeah, they somehow managed to do it without me.
Yeah. Well,
they've proven that I'm not essential.
Oof.
Just my equipment.
Oof. I do like that Brandon Graham, and let's try to keep it in the final mix, like maybe tack it on the end. Kind of has like a cameo in this interview.
That was good. Stings less every time. Still stings.
Of course. Jake, you get into anything wild and wonderful? West Virginia?
Well. Yeah, I got back on an anime kick thanks to One Punch Man. It's only 12 episodes, so it's really quick to watch. But the first season of One Punch Man is on Netflix, and I've been meaning to check it out because I had read some of the first book, and I love a good deconstruction of a superhero. And it's more, I mean, it's parody really, but one of the things that makes the show great for me is really being a fan of Superman. A lot of times people come up and say, "Oh, how can you give a shit about a character that's so strong?" And there's really 2 ways to tackle that. Actually 3. Quit and don't do it, which, there's been stories of writers who are really great writers who are like, I don't know. I don't want to do this. I don't know how to tackle this. I think Danny O'Neill once said like he just stopped writing Superman because he was like, I don't know what to do. He's just so goddamn powerful. And then there's the other way of like making him less powerful, like John Byrne's Superman, and making him deal with more personal problems and dealing with what it means to be Superman. And then there's the other way if you make him just the most goddamn powerful thing on the planet and have fun with it. Now, you go that far anyway in either direction and you're in trouble. I think Grant Morrison kind of did it perfectly in All-Star Superman, where it's like that cover of him looking back at the reader like, I got this. It's really no problem because nothing can hurt me. Even though that's the book where he dies or is dying. And which kind of makes perfect sense to that whole story. But One Punch Man takes it as, here's a character that is so powerful that he defeats his enemies in one punch. And he can't test his limits because he doesn't get a second punch in, because they explode. And it's, chunks and innards flying all over the place. And he gets really pissed off because he wants to test his limits to see how strong he is. And so it kind of takes that idea of how do you make a strong, super strong, almost near invincible god-like character, make him interesting. And it's, well, you focus on the fact that he's become detached from human emotion, really. He doesn't really have any emotion anymore except just kind of like this drone life. And the way he's drawn, as this kind of like bald Eggman. And he's not this Superman type physique. But also parodying just so many different things, and the way it's done, the action is astounding, especially in the pilot episode and the finale of the season as well. But spread through all throughout it, and with all great anime, you get a great cast of characters, and I love the Japanese voice work. It's just outstanding. The original. I guess the subtitled version of, subs or dubs. The subs, for me, like, that's the way I always want to watch anime because it's so, like, heartfelt and intense, like, so over-the-top intense, and it works really well for One Punch Man. Like, Attack on Titan, I couldn't imagine watching Attack on Titan any other way because, oh my god, the screams and the rage that they have in their voice work is amazing. And so yeah, One Punch Man was I just burned through it so quick because it's just so much damn fun, and insane, over the top. But also it's got that heartbeat in there too. You got to have that in there as well. And it got me into reading, trying to catch up in the manga. I think there's like 11 books so far, and then checking out Berserk, the most batshit crazy metal thing I've ever read in my entire life, which is kind of the counterbalance to the humor of One Punch Man, because Berserk is, I would not say funny. It's super violent, very graphic, and but it's very well done and kind of I guess well known through the anime manga community.
Is there any anime post Berserk that you're kind of looking to?
Well, I mean, I got a ways to go on those books. I'm catching up on the Ultraman manga as well. They're up to 8 volumes of that so far. I started Death Note as well.
Oh.
I've had that forever. I've had that anime forever. So I'm starting Death Note, and then I actually restarted One Punch Man after I finished it, just because it's great. It's just it's you would think seeing a guy beat his enemies with one punch over and over again would get tiring, but the way they set it up, it gets to a point when they set up this villain of the episode to be so all-powerful that you're like, I cannot fucking wait for Saitama to go up and punch him once and him explode everywhere, because it's like the punchline, but it's a great punchline, and so it's like it's there, and as it's getting like closer and closer to it, and then when it finally happens, it's just fucking hysterical. But then again, also really, like I said, really smart in taking on the superhero genre. Very creative.
I did watch the first episode of the One Punch Man a while ago, because friend of the show Ken was trying to get me to check it out.
He seemed very excited on Facebook.
He loves it.
It's great.
I unfortunately am not a strong enough reader to read subs, so I have to watch the English dubbing, and I can't find it anywhere.
They took it off Netflix.
Yeah, so I have not been able to watch it unless I find some place to illicitly or illegally stream it, and I am trying to not do that.
Yeah, don't do that with One Punch Man, because he'll fucking kill you. With
one punch.
I think like watching anime like Full Metal Alchemist and Attack on Titan and other has helped me make me a faster reader, because I am the slowest. I'm also like super dyslexic too, but like the slowest fucking reader, and so I am like, I have to finish this before the next scene. Or I just keep watching it and I have no idea what's going on. I'm like, well, I guess he's gonna.
That happens to me.
He's gonna punch somebody at one point.
I watched the hell was the name of that damn show?
I'm doing Blue Exorcist too. Sorry.
There was this one show, I forget what it's called, but it's about a girl who has like a possessed, maybe not possessed, but a sentient school uniform.
Oh. Kill la Kill.
Kill la Kill
yeah.
is fucking out of control.
I tried to watch that with subtitles, but the dialogue is so fucking fast, and like 5 people talk at once.
Yeah,
I was just like, nope.
The opening of that with the school teacher that busts in, and it's like something out of Pink Floyd's The Wall, and it's just the craziest shit.
It was once I found the English dub for it, it was so worth watching because it's so funny.
The one that I've done English dub in is Dragon Ball, which I do love, because those voices are like super iconic, and I'm not saying I like don't like the English dub. I just prefer the subtitle stuff.
The problem with Dragon Ball that I have with the original Japanese
I don't think
dub,
I've ever heard the original.
And the English dub does this too. When Goku and Krillin and Gohan and all them are kids, they're voiced by women, because they can do the higher voice, the higher register. They don't recast when they become adults.
Oh, really?
So, like, when Goku's, like, powering up and, like, Z, he's like, ah! And it's just hearing, like, this Japanese woman, like, scream at me. I'm like, what's Vegeta up to?
Well, I remember I think we were both watching.
You don't want to have Japanese women screaming at you?
Not like this.
Yeah,
Lot
not
of-
like this.
A lot of white guys have that fetish. I don't have that fetish, but a lot of white guys
I'm
do.
only half, man.
And
Yeah, it's I get flashbacks.
I remember watching.
If you really wanted an Asian woman to scream at you, just punch your sister.
She does it without me punching her.
I remember. I think we were both watching original Full Metal around the same time, and I was doing it in the original language. And I remember, like, I love the voice work on that show so much. Like, I fucking love it. Anyway, but I remember one time we were downstairs, like, doing something, looking through comics in the basement. And you had a show on, and I was like, "What is this?" And you were watching the English version, and like, it blew my mind to hear it was the Ulrich brothers like actually sound like kids, because like on now, granted, what's his face, the younger brother, I'm drawing a blank,
Ed?
It sounds like in the original language sounds like a young kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was weird hearing it, because like I had watched like so many episodes with these voices in my head, and hearing other voices come out of the same episode, and then also you hear Nissan, like that is like probably the only word I know in any kind of language, in any language. Nisa,
Not Nani?
no Nisa,
Okay. Because Nani comes up in like all the anime.
Nisa,
Okay.
and also they always go.
Baka.
And like they do the thing where like they see something from far away,
Yeah.
and they're shaking. Yeah, and they go.
Oh, Piccolo does that all the time.
Yeah.
There's one character in yeah. It's just the dubbing, like, and it just they have it so fucking down pat.
Is that
Well,
is that in the Japanese versions too? That they
That's
Oh,
like,
especially.
that especially.
Okay, because I always thought that was something that like fans of the subs like always hated about American dubs. Like, why do they just keep adding that in? So it's in the Japanese versions
no.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck my
That's-
friends.
Well, because like you get that, and like you also
JP Estrada.
you also get like a lot of like the female
He doesn't
characters.
listen to the show.
A lot of the female characters will be like, like in One Punch Man. That's
Bulma
like
does that all
the
the time.
fucking time. But I
Chi-Chi too,
that's one of
yeah.
the things I love, like the look of horror, or like like in Full Metal, they're like ni sa, and and then they scream, like, I don't know, like there's a couple screams, just thinking of One Punch Man, that are so fucking loud and epic. Like, these people must be passing out in the boot, because like it is just insanity.
Like what's his name from Slipknot?
Oh, Corey Taylor vomiting.
Or with Tom Jones during the recording of Thunderball.
Yeah.
Tom Jones of Slipknot.
Yes. During the recording of Thunderball.
Thunderball.
Oh boy. But yeah, so I've been in anime mode, and One Punch Man is one of those things like Full Metal Alchemist that like I love like a lot.
I'm not that far off. I finally caught up on the latest season of Samurai Jack.
Ah.
It's those first 3 episodes. It's only going to be a 10-episode season. To be
really?
fair, the first 4 seasons were only 13, so it's not. But first off, it's no longer on Toonami. It's on Adult Swim, so they can like get really graphic with it. And the first three episodes are like fucking art.
Nice.
Like, they are great.
I love the way you said that.
Yeah.
They're fucking art.
Art.
Lars? Is that Lars Ulrich?
Yeah, that's my.
Fucking tell you, Samurai Jack is fucking art, huh? And I know, because I fucking shat on a piece of paper, huh? And fucking sold it for $3.5 fucking million.
There's a new character called Scaramouche, who's like
Scaramanga.
Like, I might pull up like a clip of something like, it looks like a giant penis. Like, I can't even.
Is that a fucking line of dialogue in
Actually,
Samurai Jack?
The actual line of dialogue looks like a talking penis.
Oh my God.
You just sold me.
And when
No
they see
context.
when they see it coming in the distance, they go,
My favorite episodes of Samurai Jack are the more minimalist ones where there's like virtually no dialogue at all. The Scaramouche is like the exact opposite of that, because he's just this flamboyant assassin robot.
nice.
So it's pretty awesome. No, I'm glad it's back. I'm gonna be kind of bummed in I guess 3 weeks when it is done ostensibly forever. But But yeah, that's kind of been my main jam these days.
Tight. Oh man, maybe if this podcast was in Japanese, it'd be like way more popular. Yeah.
Otashi wa.
American Jin desu. Oh, okay. これは何ですか?私は
何ですか?
私は geek out です。これは私は Sam です。
Otashi wa Chris です。
埼玉おい
Jake です。
ジェックです
どうもありがとう。
どうもありがとう。Thank you very much.
どうもありがとう。
Good night, Eric Bana.
Bonchon chicken!
Bonchon is Korean.
Korean for hometown.
Yeah, we learned that today. It's on the menu.
Yeah.
It says Bonchon, parentheses, Bonchon.
Guys, I can read Korean.
I know, we're just telling you what we saw. It said Bonchon, parentheses.
I was just explaining
Bonchon.
where we saw it.
Well, there you have it. And thanks again for Pharrell fucking. Thanks again to Pharrell Dalrymple for coming on the show. Again, Pop Gun War Chain Letter is out in comic book stores everywhere on Wednesday, June 14th. And check out that first volume, Pop Gun War Gift. So yeah, thanks again. And thanks again for a cameo you'll hear in the denouement from a previous guest regarding the sitcom Frasier. We've already said thank you very much. And
Geek Out has left the building. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da.
We had Brandon Graham on, I guess last month. 2 months ago?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
He's in the other room right now.
Oh. Ask him if he still thinks Frasier sucks.
That's the best.
Brandon, do you think Frasier sucks still? Frasier sucks forever. He says Frasier sucks forever.
That's good.
That's perfect.
That's good.
All right.
At least he's consistent.
Yeah, it only stings a little now.
This has been another Geek Out production. If you enjoyed what you heard, hey, we've got a special episode every Friday. Of course, there's the usual catching up show every Wednesday. And you get book club episodes just about every Tuesday these days. Thanks for listening.